He went by the handle Lanky Panda, but that's not what's important. This is the story of his downfall. The end of this criminal's reign started with a man just sitting in his home in Bootle, watching the cops handle a car wreck right outside his house. Thinking it was hilarious, he whips out his phone and snaps a few pictures. He shoots them over to his buddies with a joke about the cops being all over the place. Just another day in the neighborhood, right? Except this guy was anything but normal. He was running an 18.5 million pound drug empire. And those photos? They were about to burn everything he'd built to the ground. This is the story of Michael McNally, a low-key guy from Merseyside who was convinced he was untouchable. He used military-grade encryption, constantly switched up his locations, and moved millions of pounds worth of coke and heroin across the entire country. But one tiny mistake, one single moment of carelessness, brought his whole operation to its knees. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why even the most sophisticated outlaws can't outrun the long arm of the law. Before we dive into how McNally's world completely unraveled, do me a solid, smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Trust me, you are not going to want to miss the other stories we have lined up. The cases get darker, the criminals get bolder, and the investigations get way more shocking. All right, let's get right into it. Let's rewind to early 2020. The whole country is on lockdown. The streets are total ghost towns, and everyone's stuck at home, glued to the news about this virus that flipped the world on its head. But while most folks were worried about toilet paper and keeping 6 feet apart, Michael McNally saw something completely different. He saw an opportunity. Just think about it. Empty roads, police tied up with lockdown enforcement, and couriers who could easily pose as essential workers. It was the perfect time to move product. And McNally wasn't just moving a little bit of stuff for his friends down at the bar. No, this man was moving industrial-level weight. We're talking kilograms of cocaine and heroin, week in and week out. From March through June of 2020, the value was roughly 18.5 million pounds in just 3 months. But here's where the plot thickens. McNally knew he had to stay a ghost. He couldn't just text his dealers on WhatsApp or call them up for a chat about drug prices. The feds would have been all over that in a heartbeat. So he did what hundreds of criminals across Europe were doing at the time. He bought an EncroChat phone. Now, if you've never heard of EncroChat, let me break it down for you. This wasn't your standard issue iPhone or Samsung. This was a subscription service tailor-made for the criminal underworld. We're talking military-grade encryption and messages that would self-destruct after you read them, remote wipe features if the cops ever got their hands on your device, and anonymous SIM cards that were impossible to trace back to you. At its height, EncroChat had about 60,000 subscribers across Europe. 60,000 people, drug traffickers, money launderers, hitmen, gun runners, all chatting away, believing they were completely invisible to law enforcement. EncroChat advertised itself as impenetrable, and criminals bought it hook, line, and sinker. Michael McNally sure did. He created an account under the handle Lanky Panda, likely a reference to his tall frame and calm demeanor, and he got to work building his empire. Every single day, McNally would log on to his EncroChat device and message other users with handles like Juicy Wild and Happy Tiger. They'd talk shop about prices, delivery times, and how to manage their risks. He'd arrange for kilos of cocaine and heroin to be picked up from suppliers, taken to his stash houses, cut and repackaged, then distributed to dealers all over the country. He used a white Renault Kangoo van with a license plate ending in 66 to move the merchandise. He changed locations all the time. He competent 9th, 4th people like Klaven, 74 man's quine. He thought he was being slick. But what McNally didn't know, what none of them had a clue about, was that the game had completely changed. Let me ask you something. Have you ever sent a text that you instantly regretted? Maybe you were venting about your boss or talking smack about a friend, and then that wave of panic washes over you, that what if someone sees this feeling? Now, imagine that feeling, but multiply it by 1,000, because while McNally and his 60,000 criminal associates were chatting it up on EncroChat, thinking they were untouchable. French and Dutch investigators had already blown the whole system wide open. Back in 2019, cyber experts from France and the Netherlands managed to breach EncroChat's servers. And I don't just mean they could read the encrypted messages after they were sent, no. They took it a massive step further. They deployed what they called a technical tool that copied every single message before it was even encrypted. Just let that sink in for a second. Every deal discussed, every threat made, every single photo shared, all of it captured in plain text and delivered straight to law enforcement. By early 2020, millions of these messages were being copied and shared with police agencies all across Europe. In the UK, this intelligence became the foundation for something called Operation Venetic, a massive investigation led by the National Crime Agency and regional police departments. And the results? Absolutely devastating for organized crime. Let me break down some numbers for you. From Merseyside alone, from Merseyside, which was McNally's home turf. Over 5 years, Operation Venetic led to 213 individuals being charged with serious offenses. 180 of them have been sentenced to a combined total of 2,261 years behind bars. Police also seized £2 million in cash and more than 150 kilograms of Class A narcotics, guns, ammunition, and money laundering operations were all exposed and shut down. But here's what makes this whole investigation so fascinating. The way law enforcement identified these criminals wasn't just by reading their shady deals and threats. It was through the tiny, foolish mistakes they made, the kinds of slip-ups you or I might make without even thinking. One dealer was identified because he shared a photo of his backyard, and investigators spotted a very distinctive palm tree that perfectly matched satellite images of a specific property. Another guy was caught because he posted pictures of his prized racing pigeons, and it turned out he was a registered member of a local pigeon racing club. Someone else was tracked down because they sent a picture of a block of cheese and accidentally left their fingerprints visible on the wrapper. These criminals figured they were untouchable. They thought encryption made them invincible. But they forgot the most important rule of all. Standing in his yard in Bootle, watching the police handle a car crash right outside his house. It's just a normal spring day in 2020. McNally's at his home on Southport Road. He hears a commotion outside, looks out his window, and sees a bunch of police officers responding to a traffic accident right near his property. He thinks it's hilarious, all these cops running around, probably thinking they're a big deal. So, he grabs his EncroChat phone and snaps a few pictures of the scene, and sends them to his contacts with a message. "Heavy can. DOD out here," he writes. Now, if you're not up on your British rhyming slang, can DOD rhymes with plod, which is British slang for the police. So he's basically saying, there's a ton of cops outside my house. Just a casual observation, right? A little joke with the guys. Except those photos contained something McNally completely forgot about. Metadata. Location data. But even more importantly, they clearly showed the front of his house and parked right in his yard, a white Renault Kangoo van. Now remember, in his EncroChat messages, McNally had already told his associates he was using a white Kangoo van with a 66 plate for his deliveries. So now investigators have pictures of his house showing that exact van, sent from his EncroChat device. But they still had to connect the handle Lanky Panda to an actual person. And this is where good old-fashioned police work comes into play. Investigators took those crash scene photos and started cross-referencing them with incident reports from the Merseyside Police Department. They needed to confirm if a traffic accident was actually reported in that area at that specific time. And what do you know? There was. The official report showed a collision on Southport Road in Bootle on the exact date McNally sent those pictures. But they weren't about to stop there. Officers with the Merseyside Organized Crime Partnership A joint task force between the National Crime Agency and local cops decided to do a quiet drive-by of the address. They rolled past the house on Southport Road, keeping it on the down low, just getting eyes on the place. And bingo, there it was. The same white Renault Kangoo van parked on the property, exactly where it was in the EncroChat photos. In that instant, all the pieces of the puzzle clicked into place. Lanky Panda wasn't just some random screen name anymore. He was Michael McNally, a 42-year-old man, living on Southport Road in Bootle, and he was completely clueless about what was heading his way. So, what do you think went down next? Do you think McNally got a friendly knock on the door and a polite invitation to come down to the station? Not a chance. On May 13th, 2025, officers from the Organized Crime Partnership, backed by the Merseyside Police Matrix Disruption Team, executed a raid on McNally's home. Now, these aren't your average patrol cops. The Matrix team handles the heavy hitters, serious organized crime, gangs, firearms, and violence. They're the ones who kick in doors when things get real. And this was as real as it gets. When officers tossed the house, they found a handgun stashed in the attic. Not a fake, not a decommissioned piece, a live firearm with ammo. They also confiscated around £35,000 in cash. During broader searches of properties linked to McNally, they turned up even more. A semi-automatic pistol and extra cash hidden in various spots. Michael McNally was cuffed right then and there. He was charged with conspiracy to traffic Class A drugs, specifically cocaine and heroin, conspiracy to traffic Class B, drugs like cannabis, money laundering charges, and illegal possession of a firearm and ammunition. The evidence stacked against him was a mountain. The encrypted texts, the photos he'd sent, the physical items seized from his property, and the financial records showing £18.5 million flowing through his operation. He had his first appearance at Liverpool Magistrates Court and was held over to appear at Liverpool Crown Court. And here's the deal. When you're up against that kind of evidence, proof that shows exactly what you said, when you said it, and who you said it to, there's really no point in fighting it. On June 17th, 2025, Michael McNally stood up in Liverpool Crown Court and pleaded guilty to everything. Multiple charges, the whole 9 yards. The judge recognized the massive scale of his drug enterprise, the sophistication of his money laundering scheme, and the grave danger posed by the firearms. McNally was sentenced to 17 years behind bars. 17 years. That's a long time to reflect on a couple of pictures you snapped on some random Tuesday afternoon. But this is the key takeaway. McNally's downfall isn't just about one guy making one slip-up. It's about a fundamental shift in how law enforcement is taking on organized crime. For years, criminals kept one step ahead of the cops by using better tech, encrypted phones, anonymous messaging apps, and sophisticated logistics. They thought they were playing a game the police had no chance of winning. Operation Venetic proved them dead wrong. It showed that no matter how advanced the technology gets, human nature will always be the weakest link. These guys just can't help themselves. They share pictures of their houses, their cars, their hobbies. They brag about their operations. They crack jokes and use slang that ends up giving away their location or identity. And every single bit of it becomes evidence. Detective Chief Superintendent Karen John Droll, who was part of Operation Venetic, said it best. She explained, "Criminals using EncroChat thought they were flying under the radar, but investigators could read every last message." She mentioned how police figured out where drug dealers lived, from pictures they proudly shared of their homes and backyards. She stressed that the work isn't over, that they're identifying more suspects and seizing the profits from their crimes. And she made another critical point. These criminals operate using threats, intimidation, and violence. They bring terror to neighborhoods. They feed the beast of addiction. They tear families apart. And you better believe law enforcement is relentless in hunting down anyone pushing this poison. So, what was the fallout from all this? For the community of Merseyside, taking a supplier like McNally off the board meant less cocaine and heroin flooding the streets. It completely shattered the supply chain. Dealers who depended on him for their product were suddenly cut off. The people who rely on those dealers suddenly faced shortages, and with that comes the violence of turf wars, the stabbings, the shootings, the intimidation tactics. All of that starts to die down when a major supplier gets taken out. But there's a bigger picture here too. Operation Venetic sent a shockwave to every criminal across Europe who believed their encrypted phones made them untouchable. It demonstrated that law enforcement could crack these systems, and it proved that global teamwork gets results. You had French and Dutch cyber experts cracking the encryption, Europol disseminating the intel, and the UK police force building the cases from the ground up. This is what modern-day policing looks like. And as for McNally himself, he's got 17 years to sit and think about his choices. 17 years to ponder how an £18.5 million operation crumbled because of a couple of pictures from a car wreck. 17 years to live with the knowledge that if he had just kept that phone in his pocket that day, if he'd never sent those photos, he might still be out on the streets, still running his empire. But that's the thing about this line of work. It's not just about being smart or having the best tech. It's about being perfect, never slipping up, and people always make mistakes. Let me leave you with this final thought. Right now, somewhere in the UK, there's likely another Kingpin using another encrypted phone, feeling completely secure. They're messaging their partners, setting up deals, sharing pictures, and somewhere else, a team of investigators is reading every single word, patiently building a case. Just waiting for that one slip-up that will bring the entire house of cards crashing down. Because that's the ultimate lesson from Operation Venetic. It doesn't matter how careful you think you are, or how sophisticated your tech is. One single moment of carelessness is all it takes. One photo, one message, one tiny human error. Michael McNally learned that lesson the hard way. And now, 212 other criminals from Merseyside have learned it right along with him. If this story got your wheels turning, just imagine what else is happening out there. The criminals who think they're smarter than McNally, the investigations going on as we speak, the cold cases that are still waiting to be cracked. We're going to cover all of it, diving deep into the UK's most shocking crime stories, showing you exactly how these masterminds operate and how they're ultimately brought to justice. So, go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Make sure you turn on notifications so you never miss a video, and drop a comment to let me know. What are your thoughts on EncroChat? Should criminals get reduced sentences for cooperating? Do you think this level of encryption should even be legal? I read every single comment, and I love hearing your take on things. Thanks for watching. Stay curious, stay safe, and I'll see you on the next case.